Welcome to my review of Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. It is a third-person action RPG, while not a big-budget title, nor it is an indie game. It falls in the line of AA, which are in between. They are not perfect by any means, but are charming and entertaining in their own right. So this is where I spent about 40 hours onto this game, and the story made me ugly cry for the first time in years. Developed by dontnod, who are known for their interactive narrative adventure series Life is Strange 1 and 2. Despite their massive success with these titles, I had little to no interest in playing them because they're not really my type of game. Now, I'm not knocking down on Life is Strange. I just prefer something that's more action driven, like platforming, melee combat, or shooting. But I am familiar with their more action oriented titles that I have experienced in the past, like Remember Me and Vampire, though I have more fond memories with the former than the latter. dontnod is a studio that always focuses on thought-provoking narratives, atmosphere, and world building. Each game they produce may not be for everyone, and each one are always different than the next. They're constantly experimenting in terms of storytelling, which very few gaming studios do nowadays, so I gotta respect dontnod for that. So what is Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden? In the game, the player assumes a role as a pair of ghost hunters or banishers and couple named Antea Duarte and Red McWraith. Set in early colonial times, the year 1695, North America. The player will have numerous choices that influence the game's story, a core gameplay aspect the studio dontnod are highly known for in all their games. Let's get to the story. You're called upon for help by an old friend and mentor, Charles Davenport, who is on a mission to investigate a small but haunted community called New Eden. By the time you arrive to America, news of him that he's already dead. The first hour of my playthrough, you explore the eerie happenings in New Eden, like dead crops, people getting nightmares, and 4 straight seasons of winter per year. Once I'm done with the town investigation, I encountered the game's main villain, called the Nightmare, which is said to be a very powerful ghost that was even considered a myth among Banishers. Our duel begins, and halfway through the battle, the Nightmare tosses Red aside and kills our beloved Antea. After our bout, Red luckily survives and nursed back to health by another character named Seeker, a witch apprentice, who then tells him where to go next. Feeling lost and without purpose, Red searches on and follows the echoed voice of Antea through a cave. Their bond and love are so strong that Red quickly reunited with Antea, albeit in a ghostly form, becoming the very thing the Banishers oppose. And this is where our story begins, in which you, the player, will determine the fate of our characters. The next segment is the very center of how your quest will play out depending on your oath. Would you resurrect your love back to life by using the sacrificing or blame ritual that requires a large quantity of living settlers on your journey, absorbing the life essence, using it to feed your spectral girlfriend? Or follow the path of what Banishers do, give Antea her ascent, peacefully sending numerous ghosts into the afterlife unknown, thereby making Antea rest in peace. There is also the banish options you can use on ghosts, which is said to be a more cruel way that completely vaporizes them from existence. Though I rarely use the banish option, only around 2 or 3 people in my playthrough, and I barely noticed the difference. That said, choices and consequences come into play on your journey called haunting cases. They are both part of the main storyline and optional side quests. These haunting cases involve around living settlers of this world. You will seek out each mission, talk to NPCs about their problems, you go out and investigate their case, search for clues, then fight your way through enemies or bosses, and then finally piece together their story, and you, the player, will determine the NPC's fate as follows: blame, ascend, or banish. Whatever you choose will have either beneficial or harmful effects to the world around you. In my playthrough, it was very subtle at first, but slowly as I engage in more haunting cases, quest availability becomes different each time. Though I am kinda bummed to see that there's very little difference between ascending versus banish, it felt kinda hollow in my opinion. It's either blame or not at all that plays a factor of how the haunting cases outcomes go. Next up, the atmosphere. While the overall graphics may not look outstanding, they make up for it in capturing that 17th century era and feel quite well. The landscapes, the weather, the use of textures, people's clothing, and especially their dialect as in accents of where they're from, in my opinion, is a huge component for me because it needs to fit within that time period. Then we have colors that add flavors to the environment, enriching the immersion, from the cold blue air to the unsettling mist that lurks within the shadows. Furthermore, ambient sounds of nature also captured my attention. The elusive winds, fauna, rustling of leaves. As for level structure, it is open linear, meaning the game is restricted for you to go forward in the terms of story. But there are some optional open spaces for you to explore, like looting secret items or participating in fight challenges. Though my biggest issue was the level layout. When you first look at this game, some of you may compare it to God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. And yeah, you're right about that. But in Banishers, there's less flexibility. In God of War, each roadside, bridge, hill, or landmark interconnects with each other naturally, making traversal a breeze. Here in Banishers, each area is set like cliff sides and roads. They look like meshed puzzle pieces that doesn't fit together. So there's always this abrupt feeling when navigating, plus there's a certain stiffness when traveling through the levels. It feels cluttered or downright unnecessary to add an extra area like another cliffside to block off an item you want to loot. Now I know some of y'all waiting for this one, the combat. Now I mentioned before I enjoyed the game Remember Me more than Vampire. But I'm gonna be real here and say dontnod, their combat design is still by far the weakest gameplay element in anything they have ever created. But I gotta give them where credit is due because they tried to get out of their comfort zone at least, so I appreciate that. You know, they learn from their mistakes, adapt to it for their next game, basically borrowing their previous assets and grow from it. Now back to Banishers, while the combat is miles better than Vampire, it is still serviceable, meaning it's not great, but it's decent enough. You'll see some issues, but it's not enough to hinder you. When you are attacking, it feels kind of floaty at first, and the hit detection does seem kind of off at times. But once you get the hang of it, the combat flows very nicely. Now, powers and abilities. This is where the combat truly shines because you're playing as two characters in one. You have the ability to switch between characters, Red and Natea, seamlessly back and forth, each character doing different types of damage to different enemy types. For instance, Red is a former soldier who wields a sword, torch, and rifle against spectral enemies. Red deals significant direct damage. Then you can freely switch between Natea with her more versatile spirit powers that is for more crowd control and space around her. While she can deal direct damage to specters, she is mostly effective against possessed enemies, ghosts who embodies the dead, like wolves and other corpses. And to me, that is like the best part of the game, switching between two characters, and is a great strategy to come up with the flow of combat. And then we have the RPG elements. It's very straightforward and rudimentary. Here, you gather materials and use these materials to upgrade your equipment that give you stat boosts. You have stats like strength, dexterity, willpower, vitality, etc, etc. Now it does sound very basic in my opinion, but each equipment and item shown here, they have a variety of different perks that change the base functionality of your playstyle. And add to that, there is the skill tree. Now, at first, I look at the skill tree, it looks very basic, but further down the line, they have selectable perks and you can respec them anytime, anywhere, as much as you want. But I would say like that is my main issue with the game. The abilities and perks truly matter and they take a long time to reach the full extent of the game's combat system. The first several hours of the game is very slow. It takes a while to unlock the main abilities and skills. It was really testing my patience. And so as for the side quests and side missions, man, I would say like some are hit and miss. Like the good ones, they have like very interconnected stories and you get to listen to them and it's really cool. It kind of builds up the world that way, which is very interesting. But the problem is with some of these side quests, they tend to drag on and there's so much backtracking. It felt like a slog at times. So I only did a couple of them and I was like, alright, forget it. I kinda get it, you know? So what is my conclusion and rating for this game? I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10 or a very low B-. While the game does a lot of great things about it, there's so much backtracking with some of the missions which made me lose interest over time. Anyways, I rambled on too long. Thank you all for watching. dontnod out.